Mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
CNN Philippines are sa RPN-DZKI Iriga, alas 6 hasta alas 7 ng manggi, Lunes hanggang Biyernes. CNN Philippines are.
Cases are expected to increase further after the holiday break.
This is a pattern that is actually very similar to what we observe in many countries. One thing we would be recommending, after January 1, that there should be increased restrictions on minors and unvaccinated people from going out. And this is just as a safety precaution.
Amid the concerning rise in infections and the threat of the more transmissible Omicron variant, the country will remain under COVID-19 Alert Level 2 until January 15th. Malacanang earlier said authorities can escalate alert levels if necessary in areas where there is a spike in cases, even without completing the 15-day window. During the same period, travelers from these countries will be barred entry Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, and Spain. A stern warning from the health department amid reports of returning Filipinos allegedly skipping quarantine. The agency says, quote, "Now is not the time to relax and deliberately put others in danger. The entire nation worked so hard to keep our cases down. Violators shall be dealt with in accordance with the law," unquote. Government agencies are investigating an unverified viral social media post claiming a woman who arrived from the U.S. bypassed her mandatory facility-based quarantine to attend a party in Makati City. The woman supposedly paid a quarantine facility in a province to lie about her isolation. The DOH says it has received similar reports, adding that locating the Balikbayan's close contacts is underway. Now, in a separate incident, authorities also probing two Filipinos who also went straight home upon arriving from the U.S. The travelers claimed that their quarantine hotel said they were not booked on the day they arrived, but the hotel said the two failed to check in. The DOH said the passengers have already tested negative for COVID-19. The tourism department warns that hotels violating health and safety protocols may face criminal charges, and their business permits may also get revoked. Now let's get an update on these investigations straight from Tourism Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat. Secretary Romulo Puyat, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Can you give us an update first on the case of that woman who went out to Poblacion, Makati?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. That said passenger, returning Filipino, actually she didn't quarantine at all. As soon as the day she arrived, the next day, she was already in Poblacion. And in fact, she was telling her friends that she had connections. That's why she didn't need to quarantine. So immediately, her friends actually told us about it, that how come this person was able to skip the quarantine. So when we inquired with the said hotel, the hotel said that she was in isolation. But then the friends all gave signed affidavits, saying that she indeed was with them the day after she arrived, and we even have CCTV cameras. The problem was, when she tested on the 5th day, she tested positive, and all her companions also tested positive.
So, ma'am, let's go, piece by piece lang, no po. There is an affidavit already of her friends.
Yes.
One affidavit
Yes.
of how many people?
Well, we have a lot of signed affidavits that she indeed skipped quarantine. So what now the process is, we gave a notice to explain. We asked the said hotel, because we already have signed affidavit, saying that she didn't quarantine. So, in fact, the girl already admitted that she didn't quarantine. So right now, because she tested positive, she's in an isolation hotel right now. So we're asking, of course, we have to follow due process. We're asking the said hotel that allowed that girl not to quarantine to explain. They're given 3 days to explain, because we have to follow the due process.
Secretary Puyat, umiikot na kasi sa social media. It's all over social media. The name of the hotel and the name of this girl. Can you just name them? And after all, there is an affidavit, which is a public document. Can you name them already?
It's already going around social media. All I can say that we've already notified the said hotel. We've asked them to explain, and we're together with the DILG, SecAño, DOH, SecDuque, and the BOQ, we are, of course, getting at the bottom of this. Because after that, we released this, that we were already investigating, a lot came, and a lot of names were already mentioned, and a lot of hotels were already mentioned, so we're all verifying. But with regard to this specific case, the girl already admitted that she's kept quarantined. But of course, with the Department of Tourism, we have to wait for the explanation of the hotel and to see what penalty we can give. Either, of course, could be as bad as a suspension of their accreditation. That means they have to close.
Mm-hmm. Who did she admit to that she did not go through quarantine? I mean, apart from her friends. So umamin siya sa may DOT, may local DOT ba na
No, well,
sa friends niya. Okay.
Siya sa friends niya, and the friends signed affidavits because the friends were wondering kasi she just arrived. And then she was with them the day after she arrived. So she admitted it to them that she didn't quarantine.
Yeah, so ipinagmayabang pa, in other words, ipinagmayabang na may connection siya. And the reason, and the reason why a lot of people, I can't, everybody's angry about it is because many of us know of relatives or friends who quarantine themselves when they get back from abroad, and some of them came home, and I know of at least one person come home because a relative, like his mother, is dying, and the mother dies, and he is in a hotel quarantine, just 2 blocks away from the hospital where she dies. Ang daming ganon, Secretary Puya, diba? And then you have something like this. So, and that's why people
are angry. Like ako, that's why Tia, I'm also upset because diba our cases were already low. Alert level 2 na tayo sa NCR. Finally, children can go out. Senior citizens can go out. Parang there's a sense of normalcy already. And diba, we were supposed to open last December 1 for foreign tourists. But diba, we suspended that muna because of the Omicron variant. Diba? So we are mindful naman, diba? We have to take care of our borders. Because we have to maintain the low cases. And then, to be fair naman, majority naman of, if not, most of the hotels naman follow. And as you said, people follow the quarantine. Sumusunod naman lahat. Pero may mga, a few bad eggs, gaya nito, na because of her, nahawa lahat ng kasama niya, nahawa pati yung owner ng restaurant. Tapos, yung nahawaan, may nahawaan pang iba. Because I'm now getting reports na yung mga nakasama, yung secondary na nahawa rin. So, they also tested positive. So, parang
so how many people in total na nahawa na?
Ay nako, yung secondary pa lang, naka-23 na ako. In fact, but that's only one friend, ha? Because this person not only went to Poblacion, but also went to other parties. So, ang dami. So, these are just, Tia, di ba nakakapanghina? Because, di ba, we ang tagal-tagal na natin, we all follow naman, di ba? And we understand, di ba, we have to follow because we want, and then, di ba, we've been so proud because, di ba, for a few weeks, we've only had 200 cases a day. Because in the NCR, we've been following, not only are we fully vaccinated, may booster pa. And you know what makes me feel so bad? Because, di ba, ngayon lang talaga mag-start yung tourism, di ba? People are free to go out. And now that you can see, di ba, tumataas na unti-unti yung mga cases. And whenever cases rise, ang unang nadadali ay tourism. So, marami naman mawawala ng trabaho.
Secretary
I hope
Puya,
people,
Oo. Yes. Secretary, the hotel, like you said, no, papa-explain sila, no? But, and I know we're going to wait for that explanation, so we don't know why they allowed this to happen, no? Pero 2 questions there. Number 1, binayaran sila and she did not stay in quarantine. In other words, there is a hint of dishonesty here. On the part, I suppose, of the hotel kasi tumanggap sila ng bayad para sa hotel stay quarantine at hindi nagstay doon. Tapos pangalawa, is this the first and only time that they did this, or is this has this happened before in their hotel, and is that what the DOT should look into now? Baka
Not
hindi lang
only
ito yung first time.
Yes, exactly. Baka ito lang kasi ang nahuli. And in fact, we've been receiving naman reports, but diba like Tia, when you get reports, you have to verify. But before, when we would receive reports, they would never give us names or the names of the hotel. Ngayon lang talaga, the name of the hotel was given. Actually, the name of the person was given. So when we checked, we knew what hotel she stayed in. So initially, when we asked the hotel, they told us that she was there in isolation. But then, so when we went back to the friends, we told them, oh, she said that she was in isolation. They started to say she's lying. So they started giving us pictures of that date. So they all signed affidavits. So yun naman, we're very grateful to these people that stepped na may signed affidavit because imagine yun. So it's very important talaga.
If the hotel can be liable,
oh yes. The hotel kasi,
ma'am, if the hotel is liable, paano yung paano itong I wish you could just name her already because her name's all over and so is the name of the hotel.
But
anyway,
all over social media
how is she going to be made liable?
Well,
Yes.
iba
How
naman
is
yan.
she going,
Ibang
is she
case
going to be
yun.
made liable and how?
Kami naman sa Department of Tourism, the one that kakasuhan namin is the hotel. It's the hotel. We can impose fines depending on the gravity, or we could suspend the hotel, remove the accreditation so they have to stop operations. But iba naman yung case with the person itself. Could be fines, could be, I heard that it could be 20 to 50,000 and could be imprisonment. But that's up to the court. But that's not with the Department of Tourism. But as we speak, alam ko, the BOQ, even the DILG, they're already filing cases.
Oh, okay. So, like you said, just to summarize, okay, like you said kanina, 23 last count, 23 affected because of this this incident.
Person,
Number two, one person, this girl, no? That everyone knows the name already. It's all over social media. Yeah.
Imagine mo, Pia, yung 23 na naapektuhan, they weren't in contact with the girl. They're secondary. Hindi sila yung
That's
directly,
really horrible. Okay, so
they were in
23
contact with the friends of the girl. Imagine
that. So 23 secondary close contacts. Number two, you're saying that BOQ and DILG are already readying cases against this girl. Number three, you are preparing to receive a report from the hotel. And number four, that the close friends of the girl themselves wrote and signed sworn affidavits to say that yes, she was with them and that she had skipped quarantine. Ma'am, I wish we had more time, but I need to let you go at this point. But thank you very much for being with us. Talagang naubusan na tayo ng oras. Salamat po, Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat. Now, in other news, many travelers have begun catching trips home to the provinces to usher in the new year with their families. Let's check the situation at the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange. Stanley Gaheta joins us live from there. Stanley.
Pia, there seems to be no difference between the number of passengers returning to their provinces last Christmas and in time for New Year. Most of them failed to avail tickets to get home for Christmas last week. There are long queues of passengers waiting at the ticket booths. Most of them are walk-ins. But most of them still had work duties during Christmas. That's why they intend to go back to their provinces by New Year, even if there are only a few days left before they return to work.
Dapat ng 27 pa kami uuwi. Kaso na nagkaroon kami ng relief operation ng company namin.
Nagpo-book po kami, sabi daw po fully book na daw po. Tapos sabi daw po nung 30 daw po talaga yung biyahe po namin. Kaya ngayon nagbiyahe po kami.
There are also some first-time passengers who are confused as to which ticketing booth to go to.
Daming tao, siksikan, ganyan-ganyan. Ang dami pang requirements, ang nakaka-stress po.
Maraming flaws, gaya ng mga signages po. Hindi mo malalaman kung saan ka pupunta.
Those unvaccinated are required to undergo antigen tests on the second floor of PITX to receive a travel pass for areas requiring it. Passengers are required to bring vaccination cards and valid IDs before buying and booking tickets 48 hours prior to their schedule. Compared to Christmas, there are more trips in time for New Year. Meanwhile, bus terminals in Quezon City are packed with passengers patiently waiting for trips bound for Bulacan and Nueva Ecija. In one terminal, only 80 buses are operational and there are hundreds of chance passengers. Pia, while passengers have reasons why they miss to see their loved ones last Christmas, they still see the worth of making a trip back home this New Year as normal schedule returns next week. Pia.
Stanley Gaheta there reporting. Heading now to the country's fireworks capital, where stores are running out of stocks ahead of New Year's Eve. Rex Remigio now reports live from Bocaue in Bulacan. Rex, why are some stalls already running out of supplies?
Well, low supply, high demand. This store right beside me is not running out of customers the entire day. Retailers are saying that people are now more excited to welcome the new year after coping with the pandemic for nearly 2 years. Some came all the way from Metro Manila like Maricar. It's been her family's tradition to light some fireworks every New Year's Eve. They believe the quality of fireworks being sold in Bulacan is way better than in areas near their home. She bought some fireworks like sparklers and fountain, assuming prices would remain cheap. But it's now thrice more expensive than last year.
Ang laki ng tinaas ng presyo kasi dati yung resibo namin puno. Ngayon, almost kalahati na lang siya. Kahit anong tawad mo, ayaw.
Charmaine from Caloocan City, meanwhile, wasn't able to buy everything on her list. She was told fireworks manufacturers delivered less stock this year.
Parang last year kasi ganitong oras marami pa pero ngayon paubos na eh. Yung fountain na hinahanap namin, ubos na. Tapos yung meron kaming brand pa na isa, yung Heracles, pero ubos na rin siya ngayon.
One seller says fireworks makers limited their stocks, fearing many will not be sold just like last year when demand was low.
Nagmahal po ng mga materyales, mga chemical, na galing po sa ibang bansa.
Retailers also have no plans to adjust their prices tomorrow, New Year's Eve. But they're telling their customers to expect less stock as the New Year revelry nears. Back to you.
Rex, can you give us an update on the fireworks and firecracker-related injuries nationwide?
The health department has recorded 25 fireworks and firecracker-related injuries so far. Authorities continue to discourage the public from using firecrackers and fireworks and participate instead in their local government's community fireworks display or simply use horns or bang pots and pans inside their homes. Pia.
Rex and Mito there reporting from Bocaue in Bulacan. Up ahead on Newsnight, President Duterte worried there'll be no elbow room left in the newly signed national budget for 2022 if the Omicron variant spreads. And how will Typhoon Odette victims in Palawan spend the new year? We'll take a look. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Pandemic, serving others is the best. Sa pagtutulungan, patuloy ang ating laban sa buhay. Kaya dapat always healthy. With proper diet, exercise, and MX3 coffee mix to ignite my day.
Hi guys!
Lagi akong focus, active, at am extraordinary because the most important things in life deserve nothing less. MX3 Coffee Mix, my choice.
Huwag sana nating kalimutang pasalamatan ang mga frontliners na patuloy na nagsasakripisyo.
Sila ang kabalikat natin sa panahon ng peligro.
Ang mga frontliners na 24 oras ang serbisyo.
Alay ng frontliners ang kanilang buhay para sa kapakanan ng sambayanang Pilipino.
Ang ating mga frontliners, ang mga bagong bayani ng bayan.
Maraming salamat po, mga mahal nating frontliners.
Mula sa amin, frontliners! Kayo ang bida!
For my babies, only vet-approved Nutri-Chunks puppies. The only one with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat with essential nutrients to help them grow strong and healthy. Happiness! Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks puppies.
Tumagal tayo sa dilim, laman tayo ng nightlife. Now it's time to live the light life. Let's have San Mig Light with the sun out. Hindi lang panggabi ang bonding natin. Any hour is now happy hour. As we drink up the light life, kumagaan ang feeling. Ang katapusan ng bawat kwento, may inuumpisa ang bago. Get into the light life.
Amid the darkness, look on the bright side. Olympic gold medalist Heidelin Diaz is not only great at lifting weights, she also leads everyone in getting into the Christmas spirit of gift-giving. Hundreds of families in the communities of St. Joseph Chapel Community in Batasan, Quezon City, and Pagray Kogyo Urban Poor Community in Antipolo City received Pure Foods Noche Buena gift packs. All thanks to Heidelin and Pure Foods Golden Hearts.
Ngayon, medyo mahirap ang sitwasyon ng Pilipinas at kailangan tayo magkaisa sa pagbibigay ng Noche Buena. Sana po nagustuhan niyo po ang munting regalo namin ng Pure Foods. Para sa Pure Foods family, thank you so much po for doing this initiative. Nagbibigay po ito ng source of happiness and inspiration and hope sa bawat Pilipino.
This is just one of the ways Heidelin gives back this Christmas season. She believes that everyone deserves to celebrate with their loved ones over the delicious meals and treats we grew up sharing together.
Nagpapasalamat po kami kasi po kami po yung napili nyo na pagbigyan po ng tulong. Simula pa noon, ngayon lang ako nakatanggap ng ganito karami. Kaya maraming salamat po.
Hindi namin inaasahan to, kaya nagpapasalamat sa mga sponsor na nagbigay sa amin. Lalo na sa inyo, Miss Heidelin. Masaya rin ako dahil para sa mga anak ko, natutuwa sila.
Christmas is definitely brighter this year dahil buo ang Pasko sa Paskong Pure Foods. I'm Sam Sidwani, CNN Philippines.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. A dark new year for victims of Typhoon Odette in Palawan. Thousands of families will welcome 2022 in makeshift tents or temporary shelters, some without electricity. Here to give us a closer look is Tristan Nodalo, live from Puerto Princesa City.
Pia, after almost 3-hour trip from Puerto Princesa City proper, we were able to reach Barangay Langogan. The Typhoon Odette devastated the entire community and devastation is everywhere. Residents there say that surviving the typhoon was already a miracle, and a sentiment echoed by other Odette survivors who will also welcome the new year in the dark. In the midst of widespread devastation caused by Typhoon Odette in Barangay Langogan, Puerto Princesa, surviving it was nothing short of a miracle. Missionary and church pastor Sandro Buenaflor recounted how more than 20 people sought refuge in his house during the typhoon's onslaught.
Diyan kami nagsilong.
pagsilong namin diyan kami na trap. So, bali 22 kami katao, sir. Diyan, nadapa, natabunan kami ng mga mga bloke ng simento na yan.
Looking at the destruction now, Sandra thinks it will be a long time before they can bounce back from the tragedy.
Sa pagkaalam ko, hindi number 3. Parang number 6 o number 7. Ito, makakabangon ito, sir, mga 15 to 20 years pa.
Every day, he returns to the remnants of his house searching for his books and his Bible, trying to salvage whatever's left so that he can continue his mission in the coming new year.
Pasasalamatan ko talaga ay Panginoon na nagligtas sa amin sa bagyo.
Surrounded by the remnants of their devastated house in San Rafael, Puerto Princesa, members of this family remind themselves that despite everything, dinner time is always family time.
Yung mga troso na sobrang lalaki, yun yung nakapagpalubog ng namin, ng bahay.
This gas lamp is the only source of light for the family 2 weeks after the storm. JP, one of the children, always gets excited each time the lamp is lit. He thinks it's always his birthday. JP was supposed to celebrate his birthday on December 23rd.
Kaso lang nangyari nga po na 17 pa lang, ganito na winasak niya na yung bahay namin. Wala, zero talaga, sir, zero.
His mother said JP wanted the chocolate cake and toy cars, but all of their savings were lost.
Siguro, sir, ganito, madilim. Madilim katulad ng buhay namin ngayon, sir.
It may be difficult to carry on with almost nothing left, but the Navals remain grateful that they will welcome the new year together as a family. The city government officials say that at least 60% of power has been restored in the city, but residents continue to appeal for solar lamps, blankets, and other construction materials so that they can start building their temporary shelters during the new year. Back to you.
Tristan Odalo there in Puerto Princesa in Palawan reporting. Taking you now to Dinagat Islands in northern Mindanao, one of the areas hardest hit by Odette. Residents there will also welcome the new year in the dark as they struggle with lack of power and resources as well as bad weather. George Quilas now joins us from the island province. George, tell us more about the situation there. George? Do we have George Quilas on the line? All right, we're going to go back to George Quilas in just a bit. Communication is not very good yet on Dinagat Islands, and that's why we can only have him at different times on by telephone. We're going to try and get him back in just a bit from Dinagat Islands. In the meantime, let's move on. First, President Duterte has signed the 5 trillion peso national budget for 2022, but he is still worried there will not be enough elbow room if the Omicron variant spreads. Amor Santos gives us a breakdown of next year's spending plan.
5,024 billion pesos. That's the national budget for 2022. Considered the biggest in the country's history as it continues to grapple with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Express my appreciation to the members of Congress for ensuring the timely ratification of the more than 5 trillion peso national budget. Maubos kaya natin to.
Under the spending plan, the Health Department will get the third biggest allocation next to education and public works. A lion's share of health funding, almost 89 billion pesos, will be used to streamline the health system. Another 80 billion pesos to subsidize the health insurance of indigent families and senior citizens. 23 billion pesos to improve hospitals and other health facilities, and 17 billion pesos for the salaries and benefits of public health personnel. Around 48 billion pesos will also be used to purchase the much-needed booster shots, mostly under unprogrammed appropriations. These will be funded when there are excess revenues or approved loans. And after marathon congressional hearings on the lack of benefits given to healthcare workers, the 2022 budget has 51 billion pesos for their special risk allowance. After signing the budget on Thursday, President Duterte admitted he's quite worried, seeing just how fast the Omicron variant is spreading in different countries.
I just hope that we will cope up, if ever. But we can hardly, mawala ng elbow room itong budget na ito to respond to the new challenge of a new variant of the COVID-19.
In response to the threat of new variants, the country aims to sustain its genomic biosurveillance efforts and establish a premier facility to study viruses. As the government veers away from massive lockdowns, it's ready to assist displaced workers and will carry on with social protection programs such as the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino. Priority education projects include the development, reproduction, and delivery of learning modules, although officials hope schools can reopen for face-to-face classes next year. The Duterte administration is not abandoning its Build, Build, Build program, allotting billions to the Departments of Public Works and Transportation to accelerate flagship infrastructure projects. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
The World Health Organization raises concerns that the Omicron and Delta variants are now twin threats driving up COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths around the globe.
I'm highly concerned that Omicron, being more transmissible, circulating at the same time as Delta, is leading to a tsunami of cases. This is and will continue to put immense pressure on exhausted health workers and health systems on the brink of collapse, and again distributing lives and livelihoods.
To date, there have been 284.6 million COVID cases worldwide. Over 5.4 million, or 5,400,000 of them have died, based on the latest data from Johns Hopkins University in the U.S. Now, amid the threat of the highly transmissible Omicron variant, the quality of face masks play a key role in COVID-19 prevention. Here at home, the Science and Technology Department has built the country's first laboratory to test face masks and other protective gear. Caroline Bonkin gives us a closer look.
A chemist is checking if synthetic blood will penetrate the surgical mask. It didn't, which means the wearer will be safe from potentially infectious blood-borne diseases. In separate machines, they're also testing its water repellency and breathability, a measure to check if the mask is effective against contaminated fluids. They can also check if it's the right fit for the user, which is also very important in preventing COVID-19 infection. Next month, they will also have a new machine that will test if virus or bacteria particles could pass through the mask.
The delivery system of the virus remains the same. It is aerosolized. Fit tester became important kasi yung leakages, so kapag sinabi nilang may butas sa tagiliran, or, we like to have chin masks, we bring it down, or you ear mask.
These are just some of the tests now available in the country as it opens its first medical textile testing center. This laboratory tests and develops face masks and personal protective equipment not only against COVID-19 infection, but for other medical and occupational use as well. It's run by the Department of Science and Technology. Building it cost 82 million pesos, pulled from the government's contingency fund, an investment in building the country's response to future health crisis.
Marami tayong manufacturers, wala silang ability to have their products tested.
Since the beginning of the pandemic until today, locally made masks and protective equipment are sent to facilities abroad for testing. It takes time and costs a lot of money. The DOST even had to pay laboratories abroad 220,000 pesos to test the face mask they developed and 750,000 for 2 sets of PPEs. With our own laboratory, the agency estimates cost will be cut by over half with a faster turnaround time.
Usually, it takes 4 to 6 weeks, but we can reduce it to 2 to 3 weeks. And aside from that, 50% less yung fees, for the testing of face masks.
And with many face masks in the market, the laboratory is set to help the Food and Drug Administration in checking if these are really within international standards. So far, the FDA has approved nearly 200 brands, but also issued advisories against misbranded or mislabeled face masks.
It is especially important in government procurement for the government to check kung okay ba yung quality of the material so that you can then validate and verify if what is claimed is actually what is the case of that product.
The laboratory can start testing from January to March. By April, it will be fully operational. Caroline Bongkin, CNN Philippines.
Still ahead on Newsnight, as we mark the 125th death anniversary of our national hero, some propose new ways by which students can learn about his life and work. Find out after the break.
For ghosts, there's no place like home.
This main house has something in it.
And home is Discovery Plus. Freak out on all the episodes of Ghost Adventures.
Whatever is up in that room doesn't want us there.
I heard that. Discovery Plus is here, the exclusive home of Ghost Adventures. Subscribe now at 129 pesos per month.
Welcome to our world, where we empower our customers to determine their personal path to financial success. Introducing the Bancom Experience Program from Bank of Commerce, an exclusive membership program for a discerning few. Enjoy more personalized banking and access to exclusive benefits that suit your lifestyle, including a safer banking experience with the EMV debit card, higher EMV debit card withdrawal limits. Grow a successful and rewarding financial future with experience from Bank of Commerce. Visit Bank of Commerce online for more details.
Bawat patak, may sarap, may lakas, sulit. Red Horse Beer.
Now, the hallmark of a birria taco is the delicious slow-cooked meat filling, and it usually has a side of a savory broth to dip the signature fried tacos in. Sounds delicious, right, Chef?
That's right. And usually, to achieve that wonderful and tasty meat, it would take about 4 to 6 hours to slow cook. However, today, we are going to show you a life hack so you can easily enjoy these birria tacos at home in under an hour, using, of course, our Pure Foods corned beef.
You guys are gonna love this, and you can even make this a fun family activity for the weekend, and Chef here will show you exactly how it's done. Let's go, Chef.
All right, so here are the ingredients. Now let's prepare first the filling and its sauce. Heat oil in a pan and then saute garlic and onions until onions are tender. Add tomato paste and continue to saute. Add the corned beef and spices and continue sauteing for about a minute. Add crushed tomatoes, water, and simmer for 10 minutes over low heat, stirring occasionally. Add soy sauce and sugar. Then lastly, add the cilantro. Now strain to separate the corned beef filling from the dipping sauce. To make the tacos, mix all the ingredients until smooth and knead for about 15 minutes. Divide the dough into 15 small balls and rest this for about 30 minutes. Now roll out each ball into 6-inch diameter pieces. Meanwhile, heat the pan on high and then cook each taco for about 30 seconds on each side. Now to assemble, place every 2 tablespoons of corned beef filling on each taco and then garnish with extra cilantro. Now serve this with its sauce and lime wedges.
And now for my favorite part, the taste test. Okay, I want to try this. So how do I do this, Chef? Dip. Gotta get the sauce.
Yes.
Gotta get all the sauce.
Lots of the sauce.
They're so good.
I'm glad you like
My
it.
kids and hubby will definitely enjoy this wonderful birria. Oh my God, just like the real thing.
Alam mo naman, ang Pure Foods corned beef takes care of the pure sarap families are craving for.
I agree with you there, and this recipe is so enjoyable to make, and you end up with such a yummy dish. So, mommies, you should all try this at home. So right now, stock up on your supply run. Stock on Pure Foods corned beef, which is available in all leading supermarkets, and you can even add to cart Pure Foods corned beef on your favorite e-commerce sites, Lazada and Shopee, or buy online at the SMC Hub.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. On the 125th death anniversary of Jose Rizal today, President Duterte called on Filipinos to honor our modern-day heroes. In a message, Mr. Duterte highlighted the role of pandemic frontliners who, quote, fought against odds brought by the deceased to help save lives while risking their own, unquote. The president also led the wreath-laying rites at Rizal Park earlier today. The national icon also got another tribute today, this 3D printed structure at the Department of Science and Technology Complex in Taguig. The Jose Rizal Filipino scientist statue stands 12 feet and 5 inches tall, making it the tallest 3D printed monument of the Philippine hero. This was created by the DOST's Metals Industry Research and Development Center. Now, Rizal has been a required class for decades, but how well do we really know the national hero? Some educators and experts suggest learning about the national hero should go beyond memorization. And as our Paulo Barcelon explains, they believe teaching Rizal's life and work should be relevant to the times.
For college student Kenan Gawaran, Rizal class centered not just on his two famous novels, but on the national hero as a person. He took his Rizal class in 2019, and he's now a political science junior at the Ateneo de Manila University.
Bago kami humantong doon sa pagtalakay ng Noli Me Tangere, pati El Fili, may mga ibang teksto siyang pinabasa sa amin na mas magpapalawig nung kaalaman namin sa konteksto nung panahon ni Rizal.
Kenan had to take a Rizal class as it is required by law for college students. The law that dates back to 1956 requires readings of the national hero's well-known books, Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. For seasoned elementary and high school teacher Danilo Lumabas, teaching Rizal to an even younger audience can be challenging, especially in an age of historical distortions and misinformation. He says he's encountered students who shared false claims about Rizal on social media.
One of those ay yung classic na may kinalaman siya sa pagtatayo ng World Bank. Siya daw yung tatay ni Jack the Ripper, siya daw ang tatay ni Adolf Hitler, tapos siya daw may nag-abogado daw kay Ferdinand Marcos.
In a recent newspaper column, historian Ambeth Ocampo said Rizal left 25 volumes of writings for a nation that does not read him. For Jose Victor Torres, who was involved in the 1998 movie Jose Rizal, a thematic approach to Rizal's life and works may help Filipinos better understand their national hero. Torres adds, students should go beyond memorizing just the facts of Rizal's life.
Ang isang malaking problema siguro, Paolo, dito sa atin pagtuturo minsan ng Rizal ng ibang mga guro, bungad pa lang, hero na si Rizal eh. We have to at least divert away from the common textbooks that have already come out, no? About sila Alip, sila Gregorio Saide, and all of these things, where each and every item about Rizal is itemized and students are forced to memorize.
Both Kenan and teacher Danny agree that students should appreciate Rizal in a deeper sense, and teachers should be more creative in presenting his life and works in this digital age. Paulo Barcelon, CNN Philippines.
It is New Year's Eve tomorrow, the last day of 2021. Remember to end the year right by keeping yourself and everyone around you safe from COVID-19. Maintain social distancing, wear your mask, keep your hands clean, and avoid social gatherings. And if you haven't gotten vaccinated or boosted yet, do so. Here's to a happy and healthy New Year. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pio Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
The first 5 cases of HIV were officially reported in 1981. And over the past 4 decades, scientists have made tremendous progress in learning more about the disease and searching for that cure. But here at home, HIV and AIDS continues to be a serious public health issue. We have one of the fastest growing HIV epidemics in the world, with over 75,000 Filipinos testing positive in 2020. And experts say only a small percentage of these Filipinos had the right information on HIV transmission as well as prevention. So, as we celebrate World AIDS Day, we need to come together and raise awareness on this issue. Support those who are living with it and honor those who have lost their lives to it. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. As we continue to deal with the effects of one pandemic, we urgently need to double our efforts into a growing problem here at home, HIV and AIDS. Our guests are here today to tell us more about the condition and how we can be a part of the solution. Let's welcome Dr. Carl Henson. He's an infectious disease specialist from the Medical City. Also with us is Dr. Ronvin Pagtakhan. He is the founder and CEO of Love Yourself Incorporated. Thank you both for joining us on this program and this very important topic that we have. Now, I'll start first with Dr. Carl. Bakit nagkaganon? What's happening? And who are the most affected by this?
When people have sexual relations, they're not using the correct protection. And we see more and more, at least I have a lot of patients these days who have multiple sexual partners. So the usual risk factors for HIV, we see it a lot in young people. Actually, not just young people. We see it a lot in society these days. So, and that's why I think it's very important for us to emphasize the need to educate for the use of safe sexual practices, etc.
Now, the number of cases among males having sex with males has significantly increased. But as we mentioned, majority of these Filipinos weren't even aware of the disease and its complications. Dr. Vin, can we pinpoint this to a lack of education kung bakit tayo one of the highest countries in the world actually na steady ang akyat ng HIV and AIDS? Is it purely or predominantly the lack of education?
Well, it's multiple factors. So number one is people are becoming a little bit aware, but they do not understand the consequences of their actions. For example, when people engage in unprotected penetrative sex, because sex is very accessible nowadays. Despite the pandemic, we saw an increasing number of cases in the country. For example, just from January to September, we had almost 100,000 newly diagnosed people living with HIV despite the pandemic. And just this September, with the latest HARP report from the Department of Health, we had 980 cases. And this is not just because of lack of awareness, because, information is there already, but call to action mainly ang kailangan natin. We need people to understand the concept of combination prevention when it comes to HIV.
But for now, let's talk about the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV. Dr. Carl, for someone who's heard of this just for the first time, how would you explain it? What exactly is HIV?
So HIV is human immunodeficiency virus, like you said, no? So it's a virus, and viruses by nature do not have their own reproductive capacity. No? They need a host cell, and they use the host cell to replicate. HIV, the host cell is yung immune system ng tao, no? Specifically CD4 positive cells. Essentially, the virus attacks our immune system, specifically CD4 positive cells. If they attack these cells, eventually these cells will become infected and they will die. At the initial point of infection, the person with the CD4 positive cells will have a lot of it. But if the infection becomes continues unabated and untreated, no, you will run out of CD4 positive cells.
Okay.
And if you run out of CD4 positive cells, that's when you see all these opportunistic infections, no, the signs of a weakened immune system. Yun na yung point where you call it AIDS or acquired immunodeficiency syndrome.
Let's talk about the progression of the disease, Dr. Carl. Tell us what happens to a person on day one once they're infected.
When someone gets infected with HIV, the virus takes a couple of days now to establish an infection. It will, for a while, circulate in the blood before really establishing or infecting cells that parang in the immune system. So it establishes an infection in the immune system lining our gut, etc., no, our lymph nodes. And once the virus takes a hold of the immune system, it unfortunately becomes a permanent feature of that immune system. At our current level of technology, we have no way of curing HIV.
Dr. Vin, when it comes to the initial phases ng HIV, a lot of those infected may misconstrue or pwede nilang pagkamalan yung mga initial symptoms ng HIV na meron silang lagnat. Is this possible? What are some of the signs, Doc Vin, na nag-uumpisa na ang HIV?
A person can experience acute retroviral syndrome, but it's really non-specific. That's why whenever we have patients, we always encourage our patients who are sexually active, who are showing signs and symptoms of potential HIV, which are, common infections, which are recurrent, like sore throat, flu-like symptoms, to get themselves tested every 6 months. So this is the only bulletproof way that you would know that you have HIV is for you to get yourself tested. People develop, pneumonia that's caused by fungi, when in fact you usually see fungi lang sa skin. So these are red flags already for doctors and healthcare providers to think na this client might have HIV. But the only way for us to make sure that it is really HIV is for that client to get him or herself tested.
When it comes to testing for HIV, how sensitive are the tests? How soon can they detect that someone is HIV positive?
Before, when you have HIV, you need to wait for 2 to 3 months for you to get yourself tested if you think you were exposed to HIV. But the newest innovation that we brought it last year in the Philippines during the height of the pandemic, is the self-testing kit. So the Sure Check self-test kit, it just needs 3 weeks from your last unprotected penetrative sexual intercourse for it to detect if you have HIV.
Where can someone avail of this home test kit for HIV, Dr. Vin? Because I think this is one of the reasons why maybe a lot of people are not getting tested is the privacy factor of it.
They can just visit www.loveyourself.ph or go to bit.ly/selfcareph, because self-care kits are not readily available in markets or pharmacies. You can only avail it through the program that we have called Self-Care.
Okay.
And so it's free, and you can access it through our website lang.
HIV and AIDS can cause a number of complications like opportunistic infections as well as cancers. We'll discuss this after a short break. So stay with us on MedTalk Health Talk only on CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where caring is our calling. HIV is a virus that attacks our immune system, and this means that the disease can weaken your defense against many other opportunistic infections as well as malignancies. Having a healthy lifestyle and taking your treatment is key in preventing its progression. Dr. Carl, let's talk about some of these. Ano ba yung opportunistic infections? Bakit ito madalas makikita with someone with AIDS?
We call it opportunistic infections for a reason. No? In someone with a normal immune system, these infections normally don't cause problems. Earlier on, Dr. Vin mentioned fungal pneumonias. No? Fungi normally doesn't cause problems in someone with a good immune system. You can inhale it and then, it just stays there, doesn't cause any problems. But in someone with very weak immune system, it can actually cause very severe problems. An example would be pneumocystis hiroveci pneumonia. So pneumocystis is a type of fungus that, it's what's called ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It doesn't normally cause problems, but in someone with very low CD4 counts, it can actually cause a very bad type of pneumonia, which patients can die from, no? Especially if their oxygen saturations remain very low, etc. So there are many different kinds of infections that are called opportunistic, and they only happen when the patient has very low immune systems. So pneumocystis is one of them. Candida, it's another kind of fungus where you see parang cheese-like material in your mouth. No, so yun, many different kinds.
Okay, so aside from PCP, people can also get some forms of malignancies as well. Dr. Vin, tell us more about this. Ano pa bang aside from pneumonia, ano pa yung ibang mga infections ang pwedeng makuha ng isang person with AIDS?
Well, one of the most common infections or what do you call this, opportunistic infection that a client will get sa clinic natin when we test 100 to 120 per day. Normally, nagpa-positive doon is 10 to 12 people. And when those 10 to 12 people, newly diagnosed people living with HIV, starts their treatment, we notice that 10 to 15% of them actually have tuberculosis as well.
Dr. Carl, let's talk about treatment now for someone who took the home HIV test, found that they are positive. What should they do now? Should they start treatment right away?
In my clinic, I give them a request for, I need to look for other infections, syphilis, TB, hepatitis, etc. So that when I form my treatment plan, it's a more cohesive, looking for, for example, if I need to treat syphilis or I need to treat TB first before I give them medications. But eventually, the final common pathway is I will then endorse them to the Medical City's treatment hub, a clinic called Iriga. And that's where they get their medications. So once they are ready for treatment. The medications, we need to emphasize, they're actually free. The government purchases the medications for our patients. They just really need the endorsement of a doctor saying na they are ready to start treatment for HIV. The medications, in most cases, the medications are the 3-in-1 pills. When we treat HIV, they need 3 medications ideally. And in the Philippines, there are 2 forms where the 3 medications are rolled into 1 pill. So you only need to take 1 pill per day. And that really is the start of the treatment for HIV.
Okay, that's very good because right now the current treatment is 1 pill per day as opposed to treatment as it was several years ago. So there is better patient compliance nowadays when it comes to treatment. Now, Dr. Vin, when it comes to the treatment of HIV, sabi ni Doc Carl, this is free. Is treatment also available at Love Yourself PH? Kailangan bang may qualification ito or whether can afford or hindi maka-afford, bata or matanda, will be able to avail of treatment for HIV?
Fred, you're right po. It's free and it's available in our community center. So Love Yourself currently has 9,100 clients who are on treatment for HIV. And I'm happy to share with you na around 92% of them who are eligible for viral load testing, usually sila po yung nagagamot na for more than a year, are virally suppressed, which means they cannot transmit the infection anymore. We also introduced a new set of medications last year because 10% of people living with HIV undergoing medication, the 3-in-1 pill that Doc mentioned a while ago, some of them, they develop some sort of psychological side effects like inability to sleep or vivid dreams or severe headaches or some sort of mild anxiety or depression. So what we did is we proposed to the Philippine government to start and introduce a new drug called dolutegravir, which is the same drug, but it does not have the side effects of the previous generation of drug. We have life coaches who will assess the psychological needs of our clients. So kailangan lang lakasan ng loob ng ating mga kababayan and get themselves tested.
With proper treatment and a healthy lifestyle, many people living with HIV and AIDS can expect a near to normal lifespan. But ultimately, the search for the cure is still on the way. Now, the best thing that you can do is to take steps in your everyday to prevent the transmission of this virus. Now, more on this when we return. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk. You're watching CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk, your partner in healthcare. HIV is a lifelong condition, but as mentioned, having HIV is not a death sentence. Now, understanding how it's transmitted and how to prevent it can make a huge difference. Dr. Carl, let's re-emphasize the ways in which HIV is transmitted. And could you clarify, can HIV be contracted if bodily fluids is ingested?
It's a very small risk, but the risk is not zero. No, so when you look at the textbooks, really the most important mode of transmission is sexual intercourse. So the infected fluid are the semen, the vaginal secretions. No, yun yung number one talaga na nakaka-transmit, and blood, of course.
Okay.
Blood is maybe the ultimate mode of transmission.
Okay.
But sometimes, so if for example the oral mucosa gets exposed to a heavily infected, say, seminal fluid or vaginal fluid, it's theoretically possible for you to get HIV that way. Although, like I said, it's a much lower risk than penetrative intercourse.
What can someone do aside from being aware on how HIV is transmitted? What can someone do who is HIV positive? What can you suggest how they live a very fruitful and full life?
Well, there are general principles, no, for that I tell patients whenever they are whenever I first start treatment, no. Essentially, kailangan healthy lifestyle, especially if we diagnose them in the AIDS level of the illness, no. With weak immune systems, they can't really be exposed to a lot of possible infection risk. So they need to take good care of themselves, not expose themselves to too many people from whom they can get opportunistic infections. No, but as the treatment progresses and they start to get better, then those restrictions fall away, and they are able to more or less resume their normal activities.
Napaka-importante na information yon. Dr. Vin, I'd like to ask, if someone is HIV positive, what is your advice if they would like to have a relationship who is HIV negative?
So a person living with HIV na partner ng isang negative is called a serodiscordant couple. So for those kinds of clients, so number one, we encourage the client living with HIV to make sure that he or she takes his or her medication daily to make sure that he becomes virally suppressed. For the partner, we offer different forms of combination prevention for them. So number one is what we call the condoms and lubricants, because it's a protective barrier. But for clients who are not comfortable using condoms and lubricants, we have an innovation called pre-exposure prophylaxis. It's a pill that you take every day. It's a preventive pill. It's a prophylaxis. You need to take it if you're sexually active. You need to take it every day to prevent the risk for acquiring HIV, but it does not prevent the risk of acquiring other STIs, just HIV.
Thank you, infectious disease specialist Dr. Carl Henson and Love Yourself PH founder Dr. Ronvin Pagtacan for sharing with us your insights on this topic. Marami pong salamat sa inyo. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and thank you for watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We'll see you again next time. Stay safe.
First on radio, DZKI Iriga welcomes CNN Philippines to bring you the latest news you can use, news you can trust. Listen to Newsnight, weekdays, 6 p.m.
We now go above and beyond the headlines.
Followed by MedTalk Health Talk.
We'll talk about how to keep ourselves healthy during the pandemic.
Politics as usual.
In this country, not everything really goes according to plan, and politics is as usual.
Up close and more. Catch CNN Philippines Hour on DZKI Iriga. Weekdays, 6 to 7 p.m.
Ang trusted dog food ni Catherine Bernardo, Nutri-Chunks na!
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved Nutri-Chunks with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat and essential nutrients that help keep them healthy and happy. Listo ganado sa Nutri-Chunks.
Loren Legarda po. 18 years akong senador at nagsulong ng mga batas na nakakatulong sa mga nangangailangan. Free college education law.
Para sa aming edukasyon.
MSME law.
Batas para sa aming kabuhayan.
Climate Change Act.
Mga batas para sa kalikasan at climate change.
Mga batas na ginawa ko na napapakinabangan ngayon. Sana makatulong pa ako sa mas marami.
Loren Legarda.
This is a paid advertisement.
Ringo Honasan po. Sa pagbangon ng mga Pilipino, saludo ako sa mga taong patuloy na humaharap sa hamon ng pagbabago.
Bilang isang ina, handa akong gawin ang lahat para sa kaligtasan ng aking mga anak.
Pandemya man, tuloy pa rin ang serbisyo para malinis ang kapaligiran.
Serbisyong publiko para sa kaligtasan ng lahat.
Sa panahon ng krisis, ikaw, ako, magtulungan tayo. Ringo Honasan po. Saludo ako sa Pilipino.
At center, number 11, the Kaiju, Kai Soto.
Kai Soto, bagong basketball star. Sa sipag at tiyaga at sa tulong ng sustansya rap ng Star Margarine, mas abot ni Kai ang pangarap niya.
Kai goes for the shot. Slam dunk!
Puno ng power nutrients na tulong pampatangkad, pampasigla at pampalakas, kasabay ng proper diet at exercise.
Sa Star Margarine, mas abot ko ang pangarap ko.
Libre kong San Miguel beer, basta akin ng Tansan. Tansan? Sa San Miguel Oktoberfest Instant GCash Panalo Promo, uulan ng up to 100 million pesos in GCash prizes. Buy any San Miguel beer, hanapin ang code sa crown. Kung meron, panalo ka! Iscan ang QR code sa mga posters at Facebook. I-type ang code and win! Sali na! Available in areas where allowed. See posters for full details. Promo runs from September 1 to December 31, 2021. Per DOH FDA CFR permit number 0424 series of 2021. Drink responsibly.